everybody. Am I loud enough? Super loud, right? I want to bring in a crowd. Come on, ladies. Come on over. I've got some brooms to sell. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to cheat for a little bit, I promise. I'll go back and I'll drop my notes, but for the first couple of paragraphs, bear with me. So thanks so much for being here. And before I get into my presentation, I would just like to ask you a rhetorical question. Why are you here at Bio? And what brought you here today? In short, I think you'd agree that this is a great way to discover new opportunities and promising partnerships by bringing together a wide spectrum of biotech, pharma, and life science leaders. So it allows you to consider new ideas about things, thinking about new things differently, which is important for our industry. And at a time when economic competitiveness at the national and state level is recognized to be strongly rooted in the capacity to advance innovation-based industries, the U.S. biopharmaceutical industry stands out as a leading R&D and advanced manufacturing industry. According to Pharma, over the last 30 years, the U.S. has solidified its place as the preeminent nation in biopharmaceutical innovation worldwide. Congratulations to all of you. But there's one area, just one area, where biopharma is still lagging. And that's the elephant in the room that I'd like to talk to you about today. Anyone want to guess what that issue might be? Anyone? The issue is gender imbalance. And to be frank with you, we simply have way too many female CEOs, way too many female board of directors, and way too many female executives in the biopharma space. Thank you for laughing. Just kidding, just kidding. And really it isn't a joke, but I thought that would be a great icebreaker for the crowd that I'm drawing in today. Yay! So I've been in pharma the majority of my career, and I have surrounded myself with brilliant, riveting, captivating people like yourselves who have all brought this industry to new heights. But when I come to conferences like this, the one thing that I notice that is so apparent to me that every meeting that I go to in biopharma, typically the front row is occupied by all men. I call it the power strip. And no offense to the men, we love you all, but why is it that there are so many male leaders in pharma today? According to research by MassBio that they conducted with Liftstream, approximately 20% of the management in biopharma in the US and Canada is women. And that number actually takes a nosedive when we're talking about the CEOs. There are only, guess what percent of CEOs in biopharma are women? Anyone want to take a guess? 7%. And even less than that as boards of directors, that's 2%. So that's the elephant in the room that I wanted to address today. So let me just glance at my notes for a second there. Okay. So it's important to state up front that when we think about why this is, how do we answer this question? This is a very complex question to ask. But I would like you to consider at least one potential cause, which is a new term that I've learned recently called unconscious bias. And unconscious bias is sort of the slow brain, fast brain that makes us have perceptions about people and groups of people that might not be as accurate as we would like for that to be. There are social stereotypes about certain groups of people that we form outside of our own conscious awareness. Now, I bring this up because unconscious bias in the corporate sector can really hinder creativity, certainly diversity. It can have an impact on your retention, your recruiting rates, and most importantly for the lecture today, unconscious bias hurts the number of women you have in leadership. Now this is, again, getting back to a little bit of my twisted humor. A recent example that I can give you about unconscious bias in the workplace, I was actually working with an expert that we were paying to help train on unconscious bias. And I was so excited because our finance team, all of them showed up. And our CFO actually came to the training. And the entire finance team was there, and I was stoked. They never come out. You know finance people, they don't come out. So I said to this expert in unconscious bias, I am so psyched that we have our CFO here. And this expert looked at me and he said, well, which one is he? I said, it's the petite blonde woman in the front row, and her name is Lisa. And oh, by the way, our CEO in healthcare is also a woman, Belen Garijo. So that's unconscious bias in the workplace. So here we go. So the important thing to really think about in unconscious bias is that we all have biases, right? It's just part of our natural brain and how it works. But what's critical here is being conscious of unconscious bias in the workplace and coming up with an infrastructure to mitigate bias. That is the critical piece, is mitigating that unconscious bias. So I've talked to you a little bit about having better representation of women within your organization. And that's not just about doing the right thing or making things fair, it is a sound business decision. Research shows that companies who have better female representation typically outperform those who do not. And let me share some specific examples with you. Data from Catalyst shows that companies with a higher percent of women in executive positions have a 34% higher total return to shareholders than those who do not. Another study found that companies with the most women directors outperform those with the least on return on invested capital by 26%. So now we're talking money. I've got your attention, right? So I think I've made the case for why having more women in leadership is important, but what can be done? Let me share some things that you can do as a company, what women can do, and what men can do to lean in and help us turn the tide on imbalance of women in leadership in biopharma. So what can your company do? At the company level, it's important to look at your HR analytics and really see where women are leveling off, right? So it might be at the executive director position, it might be a senior management position, but typically in biopharma, women level off at mid-management. That's where we just completely see a glass ceiling. So that's the first thing that you need to do, is to look at your analytics and find out where you're leveling off. The second thing to think about is consider creating a women in leadership employee resource group. And then get some volunteers together to support you. And then what you need to do after that is to start peeling back the layers to find out what the root causes are that might be holding women back within your organization. I encourage you to look at your succession plans. I encourage you to look at your internal development programs. And I encourage you to also look at your high potential lists. We've done that in our organization and we've had quite a bit of success. So you might find that some of these are actually the root causes that are very simply holding women back. And the irony is that these programs are put in place to help propel women. So you can see the juxtaposition there. So then build a strategy that's in line with your corporate mission, right? You don't want to just go off renegade. And then ensure that women are better represented in succession plans, internal development programs, and then offer employees the opportunity to get sponsors. You guys know the difference between sponsors and mentors? Mentors are sort of like the ones who are cheering you on from the sidelines. The sponsor can get you in the game. A sponsor can act and pull you forward. So women typically are under-mentored under-sponsored over mentored. Women need more sponsors. So offer employees the opportunity to get sponsors who can act and advocate on their behalf and pull the employees forward. Pledge to push your internal and external recruiters to have more diverse candidate lists, including those from historically underrepresented areas. Pledge to sponsor 1 or 2 women. Pledge to speak up if you see inappropriate language talking about women. For example, I'm not going to let Melissa go and take that promotion. She probably won't want to go. She's got young kids. That's called benevolent bias, and that's not good. Simply ask Melissa, Melissa, are you able to travel? So I see the time is ticking away. How am I doing? Am I okay? Can I keep going? Yeah? Okay, great. So what can women do? Pull your talented colleagues forward, right? Pull them from behind until your arms ache. Pledge to publicly support and praise all deserving employees, including women, especially in front of your leadership, and push your female colleagues to go for that stretch role. Pledge to become part of an existing women's network like the HBA or the Boston Club, or create your own. That's what my colleague Bryn Chase and I did at EMD Serono. Most importantly, ladies, pledge to be a fearless girl, like the one that we saw at the New York Stock Exchange, and be brave enough to take on the next challenge at work and encourage your female colleagues to do the same. So, I think we'd all agree that there's a problem in biopharma. I've given you some solutions, but before we leave today, ask yourself, what will you do differently to fix the problem of gender imparity? Thank you.